President Trump is faced with what could be the most important decision of his second term. Will he order the United States military to bomb Iran? Just moments ago, the president wrapped a meeting with his national security team in the Situation Room as he weighs this very question. And although President Trump has so far been publicly pushing for a deal with Iran, two officials familiar with the situation tell CNN that he's increasingly warm to using the U.S. military in Iran. And publicly, his tone seems to be changing very quickly. So this afternoon, he posted this, quote, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, exclamation point, at least not for now." But the president added, "Our patience is wearing thin." He then followed up that with this post, "Unconditional surrender," implying that that's the solution for Iran. That, of course, at this writing seems, at the very least, unlikely. Over 5 days of airstrikes, Iran has killed 24 Israelis, injured many more. And at the same time, Israel has devastated Iran's military and intelligence leadership and decimated their air defense capability. That leaves the country's nuclear facilities more vulnerable than they have ever been. But Israel simply can't wipe out the entire program by themselves. So why is that? Experts say that the Fordo enrichment facility, which is built more than 250 feet underground, could only be destroyed by an enormous bunker-busting bomb. It is a bomb that only America has and that only America can drop. And that is the dilemma facing the president. He can't just hand Israel the bombs and let them drop them. It weighs 30,000 pounds. The only plane that can carry that 30,000-pound bomb is an American B-2 bomber. So put simply, if President Trump wants to fully destroy Iran's nuclear program, American airmen will have to conduct the strikes.
If we don't take out their nuclear program now, we'll all regret it. We're very close. Be all in, Mr. President, in helping Israel finish the job, and let's see where we're at after we neutralize their nuclear program.
There you have it from someone who in that same interview said he was on the phone with President Trump last night. And that message delivered just a few minutes ago comes as there are real signs. We're getting closer to the possibility that President Trump might order what Lindsey Graham was talking about right there. More than 30 American aerial refueling tankers have been moved into the region in recent days. Two sources telling CNN that that's being done in order to give the president options. Those options could include refueling Israeli jets or enabling joint strikes. Now, of course, there is pressure from inside and outside the president's party to walk back from this brink.
I'm hoping the president will not get involved with the war.
I happen to believe that the U.S. being at war with Iran would be a colossal mistake. There is no national security imperative that suggests that we should.
Because let's take a second to reflect on this moment. The decisions like the one that President Trump is facing right now can come to define entire presidencies. And of course, moments like these are filled with risk and uncertainty.
This small band of gallant Cuban refugees must have known that they were chancing, determined as they were against heavy odds.
Late yesterday, I canceled a carefully planned operation which was underway in Iran to position our rescue team for a later withdrawal of American hostages.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
Our military mission in Afghanistan will conclude on August 31st.
Quite a bit there, and our panel is going to weigh in on what this moment means for President Trump. But we're going to start with CNN chief international correspondent Clarissa Ward. She's in Tel Aviv, and CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, let me start with you because the president's Situation Room meeting with his national security team just wrapped up minutes ago. Are we learning anything at this hour about what was said inside?
that they were going to discuss is what the U.S. posture was going to be. As you have said, Donald Trump has vacillated in between saying he wants a diplomatic solution and now warming to this idea of a more aggressive approach. And I'm told in part that's going to be about what the Iranians are doing as well. So all of this is for him to hear out his closest advisors and his cabinet officials. We've been watching Pete Hegseth leaving. Stephen Miller just walked out. The Attorney General Pam Bondi. He is surrounding himself by his closest and highest ranking officials as they enter into this period, which, as you say, could be and is likely to be one of the most consequential moments in his presidency. Now, one of the things that Donald Trump had repeatedly said behind closed doors before was that he wanted a diplomatic solution. He was incredibly wary of getting the U.S. involved. But as the days have gone on, he has reached out to various sources asking them what they think. Do they think it is imperative that the U.S. get involved? And one of the things that we are told that he has focused on, too, is what would happen if the U.S. did get involved. What would that timeline look like? Because one of the things Donald Trump deeply cares about is that this is not some kind of extended war. Regardless of whether or not the United States gets involved, President Trump does not want this to be long and drawn out. He ran on this idea that there would be no wars under him. Obviously, we are seeing what is happening in the Middle East, and there is now this perspective of the United States getting even more involved. The other thing I am told that the White House is watching for is what exactly is Iran doing? You can hear Donald Trump asking people, saying that they're up to no good, and seeing actually in these various posts kind of loose threats when it comes to Iran. Don't go after U.S. military assets. Don't go after anything related to America. That's not what we're doing here. And Donald Trump himself seems to be getting more and more invested in what's going on. I want to pull up one. You read one of these when he was talking about the Supreme Leader, but another post that he posted, he said, "We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran." That's that second post there. "We" there is the key operative term, essentially saying the United States is part of that. We don't have any answers on what exactly that means for the United States, what they're doing, but obviously we are very involved already, but not quite at the level that is now currently being discussed.
All right, very interesting on all. Clarissa, bring us up to speed. You're in the region, obviously a region that has been very much on edge. What is the latest there, and what are residents and leaders in that region expecting?
Well, I would say, in terms of the near term, people are getting ready for another night. They're wondering whether it's going to bring more strikes. Last night was much quieter than the previous 3 days. No casualties overnight. There were a number of instances where sirens went off, but no major impacts. And according to the IDF, there were about 30 missile or drone launches, which compared to 200 on the first night after Israel began its strikes in Iran is a significant reduction. At the same time, people are obviously in a state and height of alert. Everyone understands and is constantly reminded that when you do hear those sirens, you have about 90 seconds to try to get to a proper safe room or a shelter. In terms of the sort of anticipation of what President Trump might decide or announce possibly in the coming hours, I would say that publicly Israeli officials are being quite circumspect. They don't want to be seen to be forcing the president's hand or weighing in too strongly. We heard, for example, Defense Minister Israel Katz today saying that, America is playing a defensive role, and we're very grateful for that. But privately, I think there is an expectation and a very strong hope from many here in Israel that President Trump would join in with this operation. And for people in Israel, unlike people in the rest of the region, they really view this as an existential matter. The ambivalence around Iran's nuclear program and what it was intended for, and whether Iran was actually trying to create a nuclear weapon and how far away they were from that, that ambivalence and nuance does not exist in the dialogue here in Israeli society. They firmly believe that Iran is far too close, or was far too close, to being able to create a nuclear weapon. And as I said, they see it as an existential issue. So notwithstanding the casualties, 24 of them, as you mentioned, over the past 4 or 5 days now. The amount of damage that has been done and the disruption to daily life here, as well as the economic impact. The vast majority of people here are very much in favor of this operation. And again, the defense minister is today ruling out the possibility of any negotiations. Casey?
All right, Clarissa Ward for us on the ground in Tel Aviv. Clarissa, always grateful to have you there for us. Thanks very much.